Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. It's a lovely Monday morning here in Southern Ireland. As you can see there, I'll pan the camera properly. I haven't got our gimbal yet. So the prop shaft has to be shortened and the engine needs to be placed. I'm going to re-put back all the bits back onto the engine so that I can see exactly where it all needs to line up for the cuts that I put into the engine bay to make it all work. But what we did do last, before I took a few days off, was re-level the front of the boat. You might have seen in a few videos back that I leveled the boat left to right, but I actually now leveled it nose to stern. And the reason for this was that over the time that Shibumi has sat here for nearly 10 years, it was full of water. So all of these points here had sunken into the ground. So in order to level the engine internally on the engine beds, I needed the engine beds to be level, and it was time to do it. It also meant that water that was gathering on the top of the flybridge was all going forward, and now, as we had the day we did this, we actually had puddles up there, and as we leveled the boat out, once it got to level, it all drained away because it was a natural drain. So now, because we're going to be painting under here in the next week or two, we've now replaced, we've put in pads, we've cleaned underneath them, and we have all of these scaffold jacks which are capable of handling 4 tons each. We're sitting on 8, and a little bottle jack at the front that's just giving, it just stabilizes it, to be honest. It just is a little shimmer in it at all, but it's going nowhere. So now we're sitting on timber so that we can actually drop these as we're painting one at a time, and then replace them with a level of tension again. So they're all freed out, completely de-rusted, spins by hand once you've the tension off them, and we're very happy with that. It took about an hour and a bit, and technically we raised the nose over 4 inches, so the whole hull has changed height on this frame that is being built on. So I can't wait for the day when this frame gets cut up and scrapped and we need it no more, and that'll be the end of it. We'll never need it again. So I'm going to put the bits back on the engine. What you could do there is pulling out the hoover, because we have to do a major clean up under this bed.
That goes over the brass bit and it fills the tube with water. You get that to power, Joe.
It's there in the middle of the bay, guys. Oh, it's up here. Sorry, here. I'll throw it.
Just pass it.
Yeah, pass it across the front there.
Open there. Go in your way, or do you want?
Probably, yeah.
Do you want to just pass it to me?
Aha. These will never, ever, ever be opened again. I hope. Now you need to pull over towards, yeah. That was a rough afternoon now.
Yeah.
Blunt drill bits and everything. With the right bolts and all. So here we have the engine is now finally in its resting place. I will say forever. So we have removed the interferences there on both sides. You can see them, just needs a little touch of paint. And we have now acquired and fitted on each of the, same on the other side, each of the mounts, and there is a slight adjustment on this end. This can move this way and the back one is fixed. And we have high tensile 14mm bolts gone in there, plenty space in around here. This won't move too much. The intercooler's back on, you can see it there. Sorry, I need to pull back with the zoom. And on the original plan that I showed you, I'll just move this chain out of the way. So the relief here was taken out to allow this to live in here and be serviced or removed, and it went back in there in that position. The exhaust outlet is back on, and we have our stern drive kit now fitted completely, and you can see it lines up beautifully. We've maintained the 8 degrees angle, and I now have this centered, ready for measurements, and I'm going to make a timber template out of a bit of plywood to mock up what needs to hold that truss bearing there in place in 12mm steel, which I will get, but I'm actually going to make a timber model first and then put in the angles that meet the floor and screw them together, and then I'll have one big template by screwing it all together. So let me climb in here again. So I'm just running 2 levels there just for accuracy. They're not completely set up right, and that way I can adjust this so I make sure that I have it 100% bang on. So happy with the play that's in here, and the little distance that you see here, we're going to shift this and that 3mm that way. That's just a case of just picking it up with a hook and just shoving the engine over, crowbar or something, and then bolting it back down. We have the play in these with the mounts, they can turn in and out, so they just need to be turned up. So very happy with where the engine has landed in. Very happy with the 8 degrees on the shaft being maintained and not giving that CV joint too much to do. And also, as you can see up here, the reliefs that were cut in for the, excuse me while I clamber my way around here, So the relief there for the hydraulic pack, and also the relief that was cut in for the alternator. Now we've only one belt fitted, the other one is there. This is just all temporary, it's not even wired or anything like that. We have dropped that fuel filter and it doesn't need any lower depth. It doesn't need to screw down any more than that. So that's actually not in the way. We have looked at that. Everything else has been put back together. We're slowly building the engine back together, hoping to start in the next week or two. And so very happy with today. So just to make that little template for the back, and then get some steel off Anthony and Beresford and make up the piece, and then clear away the paint and weld it in, line it all up. And then the last thing we'll be doing when we're fitting this together is shortening the shaft by somewhere around 353 millimeters, which I knew about 10 years ago. The shaft was originally ordered to the original length, then I moved the engine, and I knew I had to just cut the shaft, and it's a simple enough affair. It's literally just cutting it. There's no keyway in it. The little grip system that's in that is all that grips the shaft. There's no key on the back of the shaft. It's done with a completely different system. Looking into the engine room hatch, which is down there. And the whole reason why I actually moved the engine backwards was that as you walk in, and I'll just try and pan that back and see if you can see it. As you walk into the engine room, technically speaking, you would have met the engine halfway between that frame there and the frame we're on here. And I just felt it was just a bit close to going into the engine room, having the engine smack in front of you, no room to work. My original plan was that the engine room door opened in, but I've since removed all that and now it opens out, and it's much bigger than I ever thought I'd have. So now at least when you crouch in here, you can nearly stand up in the engine room, but you can't fully stand up, so it's still going to be a crawl space. 2 fuel tanks will be over there. And this is now joined us. This is the muffler for the exhaust system, which was bought with the engine. It's a Vitas part as well. And that will end up sitting down on the back wall down there. And then we will bring the piping along in by that, where that duvet was. I have to take that out yet. That was in for the gearbox. And a 90-degree stainless steel bend through the bulkhead wall there. And technically speaking, out under my double bed in the cabin. So, and straight out through the transom. So that's more to be done. And finish putting the engine back together. So now when you do move in, you have a full meter before you ever meet the engine. So there's little bits, there's a reservoir tank for that to be put in, and a few bits and pieces. Plenty space for bits and pieces in underneath. You could actually put trays in there and put the, and I probably will do this, the engine batteries, 2 big lorry batteries, put a tray across there and put the batteries underneath. So we will use up all the available space bit by bit, but it makes sense. You could get a whole bank of batteries under there and still be out of the way, and they'll never be seen. And shortens cable runs and all the rest of it. Starter motors down there, you're looking at the back of it, so it'll be very easy to take the leads up off it. So this is what I made the night before. This is 10mm or 9mm ply, and I used a CAD drawing obviously to mark those up and cut those curves with some relief. So this will sit in now to hold the centre bearing for the shaft. And I will have to add little bits to the end of it. I'll do that in 2 stages, where I'm adding extra timber just to beef it out, to make it meet the floor and to actually follow the angle, because of the current way it is, it's impossible to find those angles with the whole thing still sitting there. So it's easier just to bring in 2 smaller pieces of timber, big enough to be able to screw the 2 together, and then I'll have one giant template to suit it all, and I'll go and try and make that up in 12mm plate. It says the template now installed, all the bolts are fitting fine, and I have plenty clearance to allow me to weld it in. I'll be keeping it back and filling out the gaps with weld. So I've just 2 about 300mm pieces there to put in. I won't be doing directly under the shaft where the keel is closed off. I'll just be going down that side and that side over there, and then webbing in to the sides of the girders. So I'm over with Anthony in Beresford here in Dungarvan, and as you can see this is a big lump of 12mm, and we've just basically outlined the template to it, and we put in some little curves there, tidied up those bits. So he's going to plasma cut this tomorrow to as accurate as he can, and then we'll grind it out and make it all nice. So we'll see how he gets on tomorrow. Go. So here's the piece for the centre bearing to be welded in. It's back from Anthony Beresford, and I have to say, if you look at the lines, what he's managed, how accurately he's managed to cut. So you can see this scrape line there is the actual line. He's managed to stay away. He's pretty much bang on the whole way around, and I've just started to level up this bit with a 12mm with a plasma torch. That's a work of art. Highly recommended. You can see there that's all untouched, and you can see the line I'm going to cut here, so that's just outside the line. Tidy up that bit, and I have this line done already, and I've across the top done, which will be very smooth when I'm finished with it and welded. And this is the same line, you can see the little silver line, and there, that's just one of those things that's happened to me when I've been using the plasma torch. It just went in. I'll actually just line that up, and then I'll fill that with weld, and no one will ever know the difference. And the same then down the side. Well, that bit wasn't actually cut, that was actually the edge of the sheet that it worked off the piece that we used, and the same then tidy up that. So this is actually going to take a while to do. I don't know if I'll bother filming it, but basically there's a lot of angle grinding to do. I'm probably going to use a disc or two to do it, but it's the only way to bring it down. And by the time I've it all polished and everything, it will look brand new steel, and it should fit the boat then for a test fit then the next day or two once I have this done. But I expect to spend a few hours alone at this piece. The top surface there is really the only piece that's going to be seen, so that is going to be as smooth as machined steel. It's going to be polished and then painted. The rest of it internally, once it's welded both sides, you're really not going to see it, so a rough enough finish will do on that, because it'll never be seen again. So that's just where we are with that. So after many hours of sanding, grinding more to the point, and then finally sanding and reshaping, I've reshaped the end of that, I've squared it up, it's more symmetrical now, and the sides are all perfect, and the top is lovely and rounded. I have a lovely clean line. I'll swing it around here now, 1 sec, sorry for that shaky camera work. So lovely smooth edge, level edge across the top there. So this is ready now to be test fitted in the boat, and we'll see how we get on in the next episode. So thank you again for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, bye.